Okay, so I just had to delete a bunch of footage because the first time I tried to make this tier list video, I forgot about clock. All right, so before we actually start this video, I want to address some of the things that you guys talked about last time because it will be kind of relevant here. When I made the last video, which was about 3x3 speed cubes, some of you guys didn't like that it was not objective enough. So like if you liked a cube, or a lot of people liked a cube and I didn't rank it high, or some people thought that it wasn't enough my opinion. Obviously, I can't please all of you at once. If you think I wasn't being objective enough and not being fair to certain cubes, well, I think I got all of the most important cubes, like the best budget cubes and a lot of the best cubes being B or A tier. It doesn't have to be my opinion. In fact, tier lists are often used for video game characters, and often a community of top players all put in their votes and create an official tier list, which is supposed to be as objective as possible. But with that being said, this tier list is entirely my opinion this time. The reason I didn't do it last time is because if it was entirely my opinion and people are going to buy cubes based on what I put there, then I'm not comfortable giving only my opinion because I want to give people the best recommendations possible. And that depends on what cubes everyone thinks is good. These are WCA events, and this is just what you practice, the events I like. So you can disagree with me on this. You can have a completely backwards list with me. But if you're going to pick your favorite events or what events to practice based on this list, then you got some thinking to do. All right, so let's get right into it. I'm going to just go over what all these events are in case you don't know some of them. This means blindfolded right here. We have 3x3 with feet, FMC, which is fewest moves challenge, Pyraminx, multiple cubes blindfolded or multi-blind, 3x3 one-handed or OH for one-handed, Pyraminx, Scube, and square one. So let's get started with 2x2. So I've been talking a lot about 2x2 recently. In the past few months, I've given it praise, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it does have its faults. 2x2 is like a highly optimization based event, and you can learn a lot of algorithms. You can do the whole solve in one look, which makes it really impressive, but there's way too much luck involved, and it's such a simple event. So like, it's got good things, it's got bad things. I'm gonna give it a B tier. Next, let's actually throw 4x4 in B tier as well. So 4x4 has some great things as well. It doesn't take too long, so it's pretty good for a spectator event. By the way, I'm gonna be using that a lot. I think that whether something is a good spectator event or a bad spectator event is actually quite important if we want cubing to grow, because if no one watches it and you just do it, then if history says anything, that usually doesn't take things very far. So you don't have to agree with all the things that I think are important about an event, like spectator friendliness and a bunch of other things like how much fun it is, the complexity, and whatever else I'm going to weigh these things on. But again, this is entirely my opinion. So with 4x4, it's nice that it's more complex than 3x3. It's got like centers that you have to make, edges you have to make, and then you do the 3x3 stage afterwards. And I think it's very intriguing for a lot of people who first start 3x3 and then want to see if they can do something harder. It's got two parodies, OLL parody and PLL parody, and they both show up 50% of the time. It's completely random, and they can take a solve that was going to be like 32 and they can turn it into like a 38, and I just find that super annoying because it's not entirely based on my skill. Obviously, no event is based entirely on my skill. There's luck involved, but I don't like that much luck. 5x5 is my favorite event, and well, 3x3 is one of my favorite events too. Let's put those both up there. As you know, my channel is like mostly entirely about 3x3, so obviously this is getting S tier. It's got F2L, it's got last layer, and these both get so complex and so many things you can optimize about them. Versus big cubes, I feel like a lot of the things about them are a lot simpler, and 2x2 doesn't have all these aspects. Also, on 3x3, you can turn so fast, and the event isn't stupidly short like 2x2, so it's actually really, really impressive to watch. I think in terms of how much people like to watch this event, it's definitely on a level higher than most of the events here. Like, I literally don't have anything bad to say about 3x3 besides like it has luck involved, but I don't think it's an overwhelming amount of luck. All right, 6x6 and 7x7, I'm gonna have to think about these for a while. I have a lot to say about these, but let's first move on to variants of 3x3. We got one-handed. One-handed, I think it's like an easier version of 3x3. Like if you're really good at it. If you're not very good at it, it's a harder version of 3x3. But what I mean by easier is that it's easier to look ahead to things and you can be more efficient on it because you're not turning at like lightning speeds. And also, again, one of the best events to watch probably because it doesn't take too long and it's super impressive. So I'm gonna say it like kind of balances out and it's gonna be S tier along with 3x3. I personally don't like practicing one-handed that much, but if I could like instantly get good at any event, I would put one-handed high up on that list of what I'd want to get good at. I just don't like practicing it for some reason. But if I was good at it, you bet I'd like it. So FMC or fewest moves challenge. A lot of people have actually asked me, like, what is this? This is where you get 1 hour to come up with the shortest solution you can. The scramble is given to you, so you can do it on as many cubes as you want. You can reverse the scramble and do some crazy stuff with that. And then some people say, okay, well, can't you use the scramble as your solution? Well, no, because it's too long, and also it's illegal. So you get a whole hour, and you might think that's long. I did too, but then when I went and actually did solves on it and tried to do complicated things to get a really good solution, I actually ran out of time once, and I was down to the last second on another one. It seems weird if you've never done it before, but this is absolutely what happens, and I have to get better with time management on it myself. Obviously, I'm not going to factor in how spectator friendly this is because this is not a spectator event, but I do think this is really cool, and I'm going to give it an A tier. Not S tier because there's too much luck involved. Okay, 3x3 with feet. Ooh, so here's the argument for the 3x3 with feet being a good event. It's not my argument, but it is what some people say. So since 3x3 with feet is slower than all the other 3x3 events, it's kind of like a version of 3x3 where you can apply a lot more advanced techniques and things you more recently learned, and you can learn like a huge set of things like a lot of one look last layer. And that can help you here because you can't turn that fast. While I admit 3x3 with feet does have things going for it, my argument against that is that you're solving a cube with your feet. All right, so before we get on to the blindfolded stuff, let's actually look at 6x6 and 7x7. 6x6, the cubes right now are not that good, although I'm not going to try to use that as part of the justification. I actually like this event, and if the cubes were as good as they were for 7x7 and 5x5, I would probably like this one a lot. My main problem with it actually is the 3 parodies. Yes, it's like 4x4, but you can get parody 3 times, and that can ruin your solve a lot as well. But it kind of makes up for it in that you can do a lot more complex things with the centers and I think with the edges compared to 4x4, so I'm going to put it in B tier as well. The good things and bad things kind of cancel out with each other. Although I wish the cubes were better. If I had to factor in how good the cubes were right now, I would give this C tier. 7x7 I personally find more fun than 6x6. That's probably mainly because of there's only one parody, and the cubes right now are better for it than they are for 6x6. 6x6 right now the best one is the X-Man Shadow, and for 7x7 the X-Man Spark. I think that is better than the Shadow because it performs very similarly, but it doesn't pop as much, and it also is faster. So my main problem with 7x7 as a WCA event is that it is totally unnecessary. Here's the argument for 7x7 actually being an official event. So it's like 6x6, but it actually has the centerpieces, so you can't just put your centers wherever you like, and there's one more different type of parody you could get. Like on 7x7 you can only get one in total, but the one that shows up can be a different one. Wait, I just realized that's not even true. Okay, there's literally nothing about 7x7 that adds on to 6x6. Like if you could solve a 6x6, I guarantee you could solve a 7x7 if you tried to figure it out. So I accidentally dropped it in F tier, but I think it's going to stay there. I mean, I still really like practicing it, but that's just because I like all the N by N events. As far as would I make it an event if it wasn't already, and I would say absolutely not. There's no reason for this. All right, let's go through a quick lightning round here of events that I don't really do. Pyraminx is way too small, and the tips don't move when you twist this. I think I would like turning it if I was good at turning it. I just haven't practiced. I definitely think it's not as good as 2x2, so I'm going to leave it in C tier. So for Scube, interesting story. One day someone came to me at school with a Scube a long time ago and asked me if I could solve it. And I said, no, I've never seen this puzzle before, but let me try. In like 10 minutes, I figured out a method on how to solve this. So this is actually like the easiest event, I think, out of all of these. Maybe Pyraminx might be easier. The only thing I think it has going for it is the turning for it looks sick. Like if you've seen fast people turn a Scube, it looks amazing. I'm going to put it in C tier with Pyraminx. Square one, I've never tried to solve it intuitively. I do know that it's very challenging. Yeah, it's the only like shapeshifter in the WCA, which means like if you do certain turns, then it prevents you from doing other possible turns depending on what state you're in. And I'm not sure if that's the definition of shapeshifter, but I think it is. So mirror blocks is not a shapeshifter, even though it technically has different shapes. It doesn't stop you from doing different turns. It's just a 3x3. And I heard parody is like the longest thing ever, and you have to memorize like a billion things to get around parody. I'm not an expert on square one, but I do know it is heavily algorithm based, but the turning does look very satisfying to me because I love RUD algorithms on 3x3, and this is kind of just like the RU and D layers. So I'm gonna give square one B tier because I think square one is very much like 2x2. There's just a lot of algorithm and optimization involved in it. Okay, Megaminx, I'm going to give this one an A tier, and that's because it's kind of like 3x3 F2L, but over and over and over and over all 12 of the sides, and then you do last layer. It's basically like the biggest 3x3 ever. And because of that, it adds some new factors over 3x3, which is that you can spend more of your time being creative with how you pair up things, which means on 3x3, it's like, okay, you just do the thing, and then you do the next thing, and you just do it 4 times to solve the 4 F12 pairs. But on a Megaminx, there's so many more places the pieces can be, and because there's more layers, you can also do more things with them. The reason it's not S tier is because I think it's really weird to hold, and it looks really weird when someone solves it. That's it. I don't like watching it, and I don't like doing it that much. Remember, this is all my opinion. Don't get mad at me. All right, now for all the blindfold events. 3 blind gets S tier for me because it's basically got all the elements of 3x3 in one hand. where it's like super spectator friendly. It doesn't take that long. It's really impressive. 3 blind might actually get the highest for me if there was something above S tier, but I'm not about to make another tier here. I personally don't practice it that much, but that's just because I don't think I'm a very blindfolded practicing type of guy. Now, unfortunately, 4 blind, it's got all the things of 3 blind and more, but it takes longer and it stops getting more impressive. And I just really don't like practicing this because maybe it's just me. I'm gonna leave it in C tier actually. I just don't like big blind events, and that's just me. Multiplying gets S tier for me because it is so impressive. Like if you're doing 50 cubes at once, it's not very spectator friendly unless it's like right at the end and like people get to watch how many cubes you've done, how many you haven't. I think it's got a lot more spectator friendliness than 4x4 blindfolded or 5 blind, and it's like the most impressive thing in all of the WCA. The amount of focus you have to have for such a long period of time is just absolutely incredible to me. It's like when people say, oh, you can solve a cube, my friend can solve a cube as well. Oh, but you can solve a cube blindfolded, that's insane. Now, if you're in the cubing community or you can solve a cube blindfolded, you know that blindfolded is not the most insane thing ever. But even in the position I'm in with the knowledge I have, multi-blind is still on that level of insane for me, even though I know exactly how it works and I know the actual level of difficulty involved in it. Like obviously I haven't done it, so I'm not saying that like I truly understand it, but like I know what it actually takes, exactly what you're supposed to do. That's what I mean. I know exactly what you're supposed to do like 60 cubes blindfolded, but to be able to actually do that, to me, is just totally on another level. So anyway, that's my tier list. It's totally my opinion, and that's it for this video. See you guys next time.